Welcome back to Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange. I'm joined by senior content contributor Charlie Palillo. And if you're not reading his weekly column on sportsmap.com, shame on you. And Josh Jordan is recovering from all that Texans draft coverage last week. So for our purposes, Charlie, he'll be back next week. For everyone out there watching, please be sure to hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And remember, this podcast is available in audio form wherever you get your pods. Charlie, welcome in.
And to you, the well, the Astros hope anyway, month of May already upon us.
Indeed. And it was an interesting, I'd say weird month of April. I don't know if that's just because we're getting some used to these rule changes, the pitch clock and things like that. The Astros, as I mentioned, finish April with a 15-13 record, and that's without Jose Altuve and without Michael Brantley and without Lance McCullers Jr. And just for reference, last April they finished 12-11-1. So it is kind of a tale as old as time. The Astros do tend to get off to slow starts. Charlie, what are your biggest takeaways so far from that opening month of this season?
Well, if you're an Astros fan and March 29th, opening day eve, you were offered 15-13 when the calendar clicked to May, you'd probably say, no way, they're going to be a lot better than that. 15-13 is fine for a 28-game stretch of the schedule. Go back to 2017 when the Astros exploded upon the baseball world, beginning to the ultimate end, winning the first of the two World Series titles. They roared from the gate 42-16, or maybe 42-17 of the way they began that season. They then played 500 ball for 2.5 months, 38-38, nearly half the schedule that they played 500 ball. So the ebb and flow of 162 games, even 28 games, while an appreciable chunk of the season, right, more than 1/6 has been played. By the end of the week, more than 20% of the schedule will have been played out. But it's still, a couple slices, not even a couple slices of a full pizza. So, if a whole bunch of things had gone horribly and you were 10-18, and you'd feel like you're already buried if you want the best record in the American League again. Right? They start May 7.5 games behind the Rays, which is problematic, but not overcomable. And credit to the Rays, who've had an awesome first sixth of the season, driven by a very soft schedule. And we look at the Astros schedule getting into May, and there's always the concern of, well, they play down to the competition sometimes. Well, you want to win 95 to 100 games. The point kicks in where you don't play down to the competition. You kick the crap out of inferior competition. So the Giants, not a very good team, at Minute Maid Park to start the week. Then their first 9-game road trip of the season. Right, if you want to be disappointed May 1st, think of Seattle Mariners fans, 12-16 as the calendar turns. Texas Rangers, meanwhile, okay, they've had a really good month. Well, Jacob deGrom, they're already passing bricks, shall we say, over his health. Forearm issue. I'm not saying, and I'm certainly not hoping that a Tommy John surgeon needs to be on call, but through McCullers and Verlander, when a pitcher, especially with all of deGrom's throwing arm history, has a forearm issue in his pitching arm, the Mariners have lost probably their number 2 starter, Robbie Ray, for the season to a bum arm. The Angels never seem to have enough good pitching. Well, their real promising young catcher, Logan O'Hoppe, they probably lost him for the season, and he was off to a real good start. So the Astros being without Altuve, being without Brantley, which is a much less importance than Altuve, but not trivial. McCullers you're not counting on until who knows when anyway. But 15-13, just 2 games back of the Rangers. They'd be the third wild card as we start the month of May, but that would make for a very, very short regular season. So all in all, they're fine, and I'm sure we'll work through some of the individual pluses and minuses. You know, with the biggest plus, I would say Kyle Tucker, who's not had a monstrous start, but a very good one for a guy over the past couple of seasons, has just stumbled horribly for week-long stretches first quarter of the season. Not an issue for Kyle Tucker this year. Alex Bregman, meanwhile, continues to scuffle sub 700 OPS. And then there's Jose Abreu, who, his IV might require formaldehyde if he doesn't show signs. But as we covered in a couple recent conversations, he's had lousy starts before. but he's pushing it. And each day that goes by, it's still early. It's still early. It's a little less early by the day. And Abreu has just stunk it up to this point. Hence, Michael Brantley, when he gets here, might be breaking in that first base glove a little bit, which is about, hey, some versatility and a way to get Brantley in the lineup if you don't want to jerk out Myers. And once when McCormick gets back here, you still want a few at-bats for Corey Julks. But it's also a screaming indictment of how awful Jose Abreu has been his first 28 games as an Astro.
Yeah, and I think their ability to stay above 500 with those notable injuries that we mentioned, Altuve, Brantley, and McCullers, I just really think it speaks to the depth of this team. And you mentioned the Mariners, 4 games under 500. The Yankees are in last place in their division right now. So when you look around relative to what's going on in other teams, especially with a lot of these injury concerns that you're talking about, the Astros are fortunate when it's all said and done. I mean, they should consider themselves fortunate that things are not worse. Knock on wood. We'll see what's going on with Jose Urquidy. We'll talk about that a little later. I wanted to, you kind of talked about some of the bright spots. You mentioned, kind of Tucker, like coming out of the gates red hot. Who's been the biggest surprise to you so far this season on this Astros roster?
For a guy who was really not thought of as being in the picture going to spring training, Corey Julks has had a couple nice moments. On the one hand, the .297 batting average in his playing time, hey, that's excellent. 1 walk drawn in 74 at bats. So his on-base percentage is .302. That's not good. So a mixed bag. It's not as if Corey Julks has been great, but he has looked like a major leaguer. And he's played a solid left field, went out there. Julks kind of the anti-David Hensley, who after flashing in a very, very small sample size last year, but the guy who I think, if not a consensus, at least a majority, certainly within our confines, consensus, should have had the real first crack at the regular second base job. Hensley's been brutal. I mean, he's striking out every 2.5 at bats. I don't know how many called third strikes he's taken, but he just looks lost. Well, that's yin for most of the first month of the season. And Mauricio Dubon was yang, the 20-game hitting streak. Water does find its level, though, and Dubon's already started to slack off. And I referenced Julks. Dubon's batting .302, but he never walks. 3 with 74 or 94 at bats. So his on-base percentage is .327. Alex Bregman's batting .219 starting the month of May. His on-base percentage is higher than Mauricio Dubon's. So good story for Dubon at his level, but Altuve cannot possibly get back here soon enough. When Dubon was hitting .340, he was not as good an offensive player as Altuve, because not like Altuve's a walking machine, but he's drawn some more as his career has gone on. And of course, the power element that Altuve brings. On the pitching side, it's not like Fromber's been awesome, but he's been rock solid. And I mentioned the Mariners being down there, number 2 starter. The Rangers are going to always have to sweat it out with DeGrom. Garcia, after the rough start, settled in a little bit. Javier hasn't been devastating so far, but I don't think there's been any cause for concern with him to this point. Well, in the concern column, then you have Jose Urquidy. It's been a couple of years since he's had arm problems. He did get shut down for a couple of weeks just as precaution last year, kind of a tired arm. But anytime you hear shoulder soreness, that's when you cross your fingers on, because, Brandon, you alluded to Astros depth. Their major league roster, their lineup depth, the starting unit depth is good. The starting rotation, and let's throw Hunter Brown in when talking about that after a scuffle start. He's been excellent. The bullpen is stabilized and looks like one of the best in the game again. But their bench depth is not nearly what we've been accustomed to over the last few years. And down on the farm, right now it's bleak, at least in terms of the 2023 Astros. When they were in build-up mode, they would understandably and rightfully boast about how winning culture, our guys are winning together in the minor leagues. Our AAA team's doing this, our AA team's doing this. Well, so far this season, they all stink. Collectively, they're 32-53 through April. That's 100-loss baseball over a full major league season. Sugarland has been for hunger, 8-18. Corey Lee, not a very good start. Pedro Leon, Forrest Whitley, after a couple of very strong outings, has been lousy 3 in a row. So if Urquidy is to go down for whatever period of time and McCullers isn't ready yet, who are you turning to? And I think we've also had a couple of guys who there should have been major expectations attached to. But a reminder that spring training results really don't matter other than if they open a door of opportunity. Then what do you do with it at the major league level? Right, Ronel Blanco out of the bullpen has been shellacked a couple of times. And Justin Dearden, the choice of many to get a shot as a left-handed hitting outfielder, he has been inept so far at Sugar Land, not batting 200, striking out left and right. There's really nothing at this point at AAA that you're saying, hey, that belongs in the major leagues if the Astros need fortification.
Some of the results are, you start to, we'll say the results are humbling because you start to understand how quickly a manager can be made to look like a genius or a buffoon or even a general manager, depending on how these decisions go. The Abreu, again, we'll get into Abreu a little bit later, but the Abreu signing, I think universally was heralded as a good deal. There was some concern about going 3 years at his age, but I don't think anyone was projecting a fall off this precipitous. Again, still early, we'll see, but it just goes to show you. And I raised my hand during your mention of Dearden because I was one who was the advocate for Dearden to be on this roster, and he goes down to Triple H and has really done nothing. I also was an advocate for Hensley getting more opportunities. Hensley is also, as you mentioned, scuffled mightily at his time, getting the most exposure he's ever gotten at the major league level, and he just has not been able to put it together. From my eyes, it looks like he's looking to work walks more than he is looking to put balls in play. You mentioned the called third strikes. I really think that's a gamble on his part. I think when he sees a ball down in the zone, his automatic instinct is just to lay off of it because he's betting on a breaking ball. And same thing with the ball outside. He's just laying off of them, looking to get on base. And I think the book is starting to be written about him. I think pitchers are able to predict that he's going to try to work a walk more than he's going to try to swing the bat. And so I just don't think there's really anything to fear in pitching to Hensley, especially down low or off the side. You mentioned, the pairing of Julks and Dubon as the surprise for you. The surprise for me, this may be surprise other people. My surprise was Yordan Alvarez coming out of the gate being red hot as he's been, because with the hand issues early in spring training, and this was something that he dealt with last season, and had spent time where he was kind of sitting on the bench, not playing. I didn't know how quickly he'd be able to ramp up. I had no idea that we'd go through the month of April. He'd be tied for third as an RBI leader with 27, hitting 931 OPS. So again, I shouldn't be surprised by Yordan Alvarez, and there's no way I'd be surprised by this had all things been equal and he not been having hand problems in the preseason. But the fact that he was having hand problems, this is certainly a pleasant surprise that he's able to then hit the ground running as quickly as he's been. Now he's had the issues with the neck, so we'll see if he is able to kind of get back on track and bounce back from the neck injury, whatever that was. And as far as concerns, I am also, any number of things. I'm looking at Alex Bregman, and you mentioned the fact that he is hitting 219. His OPS is sub 700 right now, and I know that's just kind of how it seems to be for Bregman. But you'd really hope that you could get more out of the guy who's hitting in your number 3 spot right now. Well, I guess it rotates where he's hitting right now, but you would really hope to get more out of him. And there's times in which it looks like he's coming around. His swing's looking better and better. I don't know that the eye is there right now. He does seem to be looking at a lot of pitches in the zone, but we'll see. I mean, I definitely trust Bregman to hit his way out of this slump more than I trust where Jose Abreu's at, just because there's a larger sample sizing of power that is missing from his game. We'll talk more about that later. Hey, thanks for watching. To see the other parts of this conversation, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you'll know when those videos drop, or you can check back later under the Stone Cold Stros playlist. To hear the full, uninterrupted show, follow Stone Cold Stros wherever you get your podcasts. Go Stros.